People are always getting sick, so you definitely have job security in the healthcare field.
Is there any world where you can see us developing an advanced enough robot to become a bedside nurse?
I mean, obviously robots, mechanics, things like that have really been helping physicians in the operating room, things like that. But
do you have any advice for somebody that's trying to lose weight and do it consistently?
when you get to that goal that's attainable, then you reward yourself or something happens.
Yeah, just not with food.
And just trying to put yourself in the shoes of your patient. And it gives you so much more compassion, so much more care.
And I didn't think it would work on a crazy person, but it works great. Before we get started, I have a small favor to ask. If you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, then please go ahead and do that. It helps more than you know. Also, please leave me a comment. I will go through them and try to read and reply to as many of them as I can. If you have a question that you would like to ask a future speaker, leave it in the comments section. Thank you. Welcome to Kaizen Connection. My nurse friend is here. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the show. Could you give us a little bit of background? What's your experience with nursing and what have you been working on over the past, let's say, 10, 20 years?
Yes. I have been a nurse since 1998. Graduated in community college back in Michigan, my home state. And from there, moved to Chicago, Illinois. Been nursing there at the same hospital called Rush University Medical Center for the last 27 years, going on 28 years.
This sounds like a big deal because I had a friend that went to MIT and then the medical school she ended up at was Rush.
Oh.
So what kind of a trauma center do they have at Rush?
Yeah, Rush is not actually a trauma center. We do have a school associated with us, a university, where a lot of our medical students will go through and nursing students. But we are not a Trauma One center in Chicago. We give those to the other hospitals. We are very world-renowned for many things, and particularly recently for the COVID pandemic. We were in many write-ups, journal, magazines, things like that, for just our response and our preparedness for that.
I see. Okay. I was thinking trauma because she was a surgeon. Well, I was curious about your thoughts on nursing because nursing is one of those jobs that seems like everyone's interested in right now because in an AI world where so many jobs are disappearing, nursing is one of the only jobs that you feel like you've got some kind of a guarantee that it's going to continue being like that.
Yeah.
Where do you see us going from here?
Yeah.
As far as nursing goes?
People are always getting sick. So you definitely have job security in the healthcare field. Yeah, AI is interesting, right? That's out there, but you just can't get over that bedside manner that nurses, hands-on, one-on-one patient contact, being able to visualize patients as far as that goes. And it's just such a versatile field that if you just don't want to do hospital nursing, there's so many other fields that you can go into with a nursing degree that it's just the best thing to do, I think. Teaching, patient education, just the compassion that you need, just overall making a difference in people's life. It's a very rewarding career.
Interesting. Well, that's one thing that I've been wondering about is I do know that people want to interact with another person when they're in the hospital. If a robot came in, that would be concerning to people because robot's going to put an IV in my arm.
Right.
And that would freak me out as a patient, unless it's Baymax. I don't know if you're familiar with Big Hero 6.
Definitely.
Yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, Baymax is a big, fluffy marshmallow robot from the movie Big Hero 6. And he's Hero's best friend. He's not always got the best understanding of how things work, and he tries to defibrillate a healthy person in one scene. So that's one of the concerns of having a robot as a nurse. And that's something that I've been curious about is what is the point where this actually happens? Is there any world where you can see us developing an advanced enough robot to become a bedside nurse?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously robots, mechanics, things like that have really been helping physicians in the operating room, things like that. But I really do not ever see dispensing of medications and actually being able to really visualize the patient. I don't think that'll ever go away. It's going to be person to person.
Interesting. Even if we made Baymax.
Even if Baymax is out there.
Okay. Well, that is reassuring to me because I'm also a nurse and there's some job security there. Yeah, so in that case, since nursing is such a secure job, what's your perspective on an associate RN? Because I know a lot of hospitals are transitioning to wanting a BSN, but have you met anyone or do you know of anyone that has been able to get a job at a hospital with an associate's degree?
So interesting that you would say that, Jonathan, because I myself only have an associate's degree. Graduated back in '98, so got my associate's degree there. Always had the idea that I would go back for a bachelor's degree once I started working, and then, of course, there's so many programs out there that your employer would help you pay for your ongoing tuition. So that was my plan, but then I got into the bedside hospital world, and I just realized that my skills and the bachelor degree nurse's skills were no different. In fact, I even considered myself a better bedside nurse because I didn't have to take all of that theory and classes like that bachelor's degrees had to. So I've actually worked, they're obviously grandfathered in because there was a time that my hospital would not hire associate's degree nursing. They would only do bachelor's, and they have even since always encouraged us to go back. There's so many of my coworkers who are getting their master's degrees, which is a catch-22. Great for the profession, advancing nursing, getting us recognition out there in different fields. But at the same time, it takes away the bedside nursing because you're not going to be a master's degree nurse, probably doing bedside nursing as much. So at this point, because of the nursing shortage that there has been, our hospital is now allowing back associate's degree in nursing with the understanding that you will go back for your bachelor's degree. But again, since I'm grandfathered in, they don't really care about me. And as long as I work, as I do, I'm even a part-time, not even part-time, called per diem. I work 1 day a week. As long as I do that, I keep my foot in the door and they can't get rid of me. Not that they would want to.
That is such a sweet gig. You have to only work 1 day per week.
1 day per week. And I think that that's what's also great about that nursing field, right? Is because you can just, depending on your lifestyle, you're a little different. You're a guy, right? Supporting yourself. But as a mostly female market, you can really be flexible when, say, you're married and you want to start a family, you have young kids at home, maybe you want to stay at home, which is what I did. Started out full-time, kind of backed it off to part-time, and then once kids came, just came back, what I said, that per diem. So it really allowed me to stay at home focused on family and bringing up my children. And so now that they're almost all out of the house, still have that flexibility that I can pick up extra hours and extra shifts and go a little bit more full-time again back in the hospital. But it's just such a great way in nursing for whatever stage you're in that you can back off on time and increase it how you want.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And that's one of the great things about nursing is you can work as much as you want to, as well as little as you want to. Yeah. And that's something I know other people, like, say you're trying to save for a down payment on said house or something, or you want to go on a great vacation, you work 5 days for 4 weeks straight and you hate your life for 4 weeks, and then it's done and you cash out an extra $8,000, you make the down payment on the house, you go on the vacation, whatever it is, or maybe you just want more time than you've done the 4 weeks of 5 days, and then you just don't work for 3 weeks and don't get paid. So, there's so many great opportunities. But as far as people wanting to go into nursing because it's a stable job, because it's an adequate job for a lot of people's needs, I think a lot of people are interested to it. And it's interesting that you talk about the gender gap. Because, yeah, that's definitely true. I think it's 87% of nurses are female. I don't know what the statistics are on if that's incoming nurses or nurses in general, but I do see that there's more male nurses coming in, at least in the area of nursing I'm in. And I think part of that is because so many people see the opportunity. Yeah. I think the turnoff for a lot of people is it's tough, it's gross. So it can be.
Yeah, right.
You know it, I know it, so we're just being honest. What do you think the hardest part is for somebody becoming an RN that might not even be obvious?
I think it might be that. Like, it's not all, sunny side up roses, but I feel like there's it's a high stress job. Well, in my situation, right? Floor nursing in the hospital setting where, we actually talk about our floor being an intermediate ICU, like almost a step down, because our patients will, many times, I won't go a shift without sending a patient to the ICU because they're going bad. So I think it's just that high stress of a job as well. And I think that's why there was such a mass exodus of nursing, which led to the gap and the void of nurses. And I think it's because people don't realize that it is a taxing, on you and your body, depending on what shift you're working. These days, they're always 12-hour shifts in my hospital. And so me being a midnight shift worker, these young girls coming straight out of nursing school, going into midnight shift nursing, it's just hard on their bodies to go back and forth, adjusting on time. And it's a stressful situation, stressful job. When you think about having somebody's life that you're supporting in your hands, that you have to be monitoring.
When you're in that stressful situation, it's tough on you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're responsible for several human lives, and that can be up to like 6 or 7, depending on your hospital. But when you're taking care of that kind of responsibility, you have to be professional. Otherwise, everything's going to fall apart. Your patients get nervous because you're nervous.
Yeah.
How do you put them at ease? What does your bedside manner look like, helping someone not be afraid when things are starting to fall apart?
Yeah, it begins with shift change, and it's really helpful when you go with the off-going nurse into that patient's room because they've already established a relationship with that previous nurse. They've had her or him for 12 hours. And so them coming in, introducing themselves, making sure that they are aware that I do know your plan of care and what is expected, and this is what's expected in the next 12 hours. Introducing myself, obviously, going in, with confidence and just putting yourself in their situation, right? Nobody wants to be in the hospital. Nobody wants to feel bad, not be in their own bed, things like that. Just feeling pain, nobody wants that. So as long as you can step into their world and feel that care, that compassion for them, and they feel that. I remember in nursing school, way back when, that one of my nursing instructors gave me the comment that she felt that I laughed too much when I was in a patient's room, and that she thought it was a nervous laugh, and that it made the patient uncomfortable. Since then, I've come to realize that I'm not this 18-year-old who was really worried about what my instructor said, but instead embraced who God has made me to be. And he has given me this joy that just exudes out of me. And part of that joy is me laughing. And that laughter actually puts people at ease as well, me personally, as a nurse. And I noticed that, if you can start relating with them, even share a joke versus, holding their hand while you're introducing yourself to them. I mean, all these simple little things that you may not think mean much, but the patients take notice. And if you put them at ease with your laughter, with your smile, with your caring touch, it makes a difference.
Yeah, I like that perspective on laughing. I can see how real and effective that is because we've got a technician on our floor, and he is awesome. He is one of the most hysterical people you'll ever meet, and he will prank all of the medical staff.
Yeah.
One thing he likes to do is he'll walk up to you with gloves on and some chocolate pudding hidden on his finger.
Awesome.
I said, I just cleaned incontinence in room 13. And then he'll put his hands on you like he's exhausted, and you're like, I mean, he won't do anything like that in a patient. He's very good at knowing his audience.
Yeah.
And when you've got somebody like that can make the patient laugh, you almost never have an issue no matter what happens. If there's a mistake, like forgetting ice water or something like that, it's not like, over apologizing or anything. It's like, oh yeah, I need to get that, and then go and get it. At least that's what's been helpful for me, to find ways to minimize the friction. And it's hard for somebody to be scared when they're laughing, I think. Well, what do you think the most misunderstood thing is about hospitals? Because I know it's a scary place for a lot of people. And I think if people understood how hospitals worked a little bit better, it might help them get better care, find a better place to get treatment, stuff like that.
Most thing that's most misunderstood is that the hospital is going to 100% cure and treat you, and that when you go home, you'll be 100% better. And I think that is not true by any means. The goal of our hospital is to get you from that, emergency situation or that, major thing wrong with you, to a place where you can manage it at home. Give you the education, the tools, give you the medications that are right, give you all of that at your disposal, help, resources when you're at home, things like that with case management. And then it's time for you to go home.
A lot of people do think that they're going to be completely cured by the time they get out of the hospital. And sometimes issues will come up like infiltrated IV or something like that. Whatever issues happening, we've done our best to treat it, but it's not completely resolved. And I think the hospital's goal is to get people out, and I think people can see that as like you're trying to make more money, you're trying to fill up more rooms.
Yes.
I think the reality people don't necessarily see is the hospital's probably billing you for every day that you're in there, or billing your insurance. The reality is they're trying to get you out because, one, there's other sick people, and two, the longer you're there being treated for minor issues, the more likely you are to catch something that really messes you up and keeps you in the hospital.
Yeah, and technically too, those who are part of insurance, or especially Medicare, Medicaid, like you are only allotted a certain amount of days. You come in with congestive heart failure, you are only, I don't know it, but for instance, the hospital only gets reimbursed for 3 days of your treatment, expecting that if you come in with, heart failure exacerbation where you need to be diuresed, you have to do that within 3 days. Anything over that, the hospital inquires that bill. So you'll only get reimbursed for those a certain amount of days. Whatever Medicare puts, those parameters. But a lot of those disease processes are like that. You only get a certain amount that they will be the hospital will be reimbursed for. The rest of it, so that's why if you're there longer and you get a secondary infection, things like that, or a missed test because the patient might have refused to go when they were signed up because the food came or something else happened. That's, another day added. And so therefore then we have to eat that bill. And that takes a lot of money. So unfortunately seems to be a push sometimes, from management and things like that, saying like our length of stay needs to be this many days. That's our average. We want to try to do better, get people out. But you still have to look at the patient as a whole, right? It's not just about numbers. You've got to look at the patient and see how they're doing and are they responding to the treatment and therapy to the point where they can continue on at home and do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I wanted to ask, because there are people that go to the hospital, and it pains me to see that some people come into the hospital with chronic issues, but that's not what they were admitted for. And when you've got somebody like, say, a GI disorder, but they came in for AFib RVR, something like that, we're probably going to treat them for the AFib RVR, and then we're going to have them follow up for the GI issues, which is fine as long as they have some way to get follow-up for that stuff.
Right.
The frustrating thing is, to me, I've known several people that for whatever reason, the doctor can't find a solution. They refer you to a different physician. Then they refer you to somebody else, and then they refer you to maybe physical therapy because it's some kind of a last resort. What can we do to solve this issue? And as somebody that's spent a lot of time in the hospital, what would you say for somebody that has some kind of a medical mystery? Where would you send them?
I feel strong that people need to have a primary doctor, right? And that primary doctor is the one who, is the one that starts, handing out. Granted, I work in a large hospital, 670 bed units or beds. And so like there are so many ancillary teams that they can be, sent to for all those kind of issues. So, yeah, I don't necessarily have a lot of those mysterious kind of things that come up. It's always just, it's frustrating when people just keep getting ruled out for things and ruled out. And it's a mystery. Who knows what's going on with them, especially in the autoimmune world, right? Who knows why your bodies react and reject and do everything with those autoimmune diseases.
Before we move on, I'll say one more thing about this, because this has been an interesting thing to me. It is very challenging to know where to send somebody. I think the best answer that I've heard was the charge nurse in UT Southwestern ER. He was a pretty cool guy. He told me that, well, I asked him that question in nursing school because I was asking for somebody close to me. And he told me, bring them to a place like this. It's a research hospital. They're going to want to do every test known to man. And I did have a friend that went to UT Southwestern ER, and they actually treated him really well, and they were willing to do more tests at that hospital than a lot of other places he'd been. He said it was his best medical interaction. So that has been interesting to me, that if you go to a place where they're training people like resident doctors to learn how all this stuff works, they're more likely to go the extra mile trying to do more of these tests and understand understand what's going on.
Yeah. I probably would agree with that. And maybe that's why I don't see it as much, because that's who we are at Rush, being a medical facility, associated with, the med school and things like that. So we really do see a lot of things, or a lot of people transferring from smaller hospitals to Rush to get different tests done and services done that smaller hospitals can't provide.
Yeah, that's fair. But since some of this stuff is so hard to resolve once it's happened, like, a lot of these GI disorders, I've been told that the GI tract has its own nervous system, and the system is almost as complicated as your whole muscular system or your whole nervous system. In some ways more complicated than almost any other part of the body that we deal with. So it's crazy hard to solve some of these issues once they happen in the GI tract. And I guess that's why a lot of your solutions aren't really that great. Like, hey, let's take the gallbladder out. Because removing an organ isn't really an ideal scenario, but sometimes it's got to happen. But when it comes to prevention, that's where a lot of the focus in medical is going right now, would you say?
To like surgeries and stuff? Or
no, not to surgeries, but I think a lot of the focus in medical has shifted to how can we prevent some of these things, because we realize that after a certain point, we can't fix them anymore.
Yeah.
What would you say the most important thing is when it comes to prevention of a lot of these chronic diseases that we see in hospitals?
Yeah, I definitely think lifestyle is huge. So many times we can send patient, like for instance, what I was saying, the congestive heart failure patient who has that increase of fluid buildup, we send them home, but they're still going to go home and, drink a gallon of water, drink whatever they want, add that extra salt to get the flavoring on their food, all of these things that we have taught them not to do, to put a limit on your fluid intake and things like that. They're just going to keep doing it, right, at home because it's hard. They don't have Big Brother looking over their shoulder reminding them. So there somehow has to be a lifestyle change. And that really needs to happen so that way a lot of these multi-chronic repeat patients who come in with these chronic diseases are not always coming in because they've made that lifestyle change. They've taken responsibility for their own care and want to live a better life and not just say, okay, this is just how I am. This is how God made me. I just have to live with it. But be proactive in your health. Teaching people, just over and over, re-educating them because obviously they're not getting it the first time. Granted, these are generic blanket statements, but it seems to be there's a lot of repeat offenders, right? And so, yeah, that lifestyle is really big, and it takes a village to do a lifestyle change. You need support, whether it's the support from your primary care doctor, whether it's the support from counseling, whether it's the support from your church family, whether it's support from your overall family themselves. get people involved to help you make those lifestyle changes, exercise well, eat well, all of those things. Sleep, huge. Screen time, let's not go into that.
It reminds me a little bit of what Mark Twain said. Quitting smoking is easy.
Yeah.
I've done it many times.
Exactly.
But I've also known people that it took them 57 tries to quit smoking, and then they finally did it because they found a reason. And I wonder how people get to that reason before it's too late, because a lot of people, if they could see themselves on their deathbed, they're 57, they've got congestive heart failure, they probably never saw themselves getting to that spot and it being like that. And everyone's built different. So some people can get away with smoking that long, so you never really know. But I think you're right. People would benefit a whole lot from better community support. And the tough part is when you're working in an area like Chicago or Dallas, there's a lot of poverty, and it's hard to motivate yourself to be healthy when everything else is falling apart.
Definitely. Yeah, and again, you're not an island, right? So much physical things can be attributed to your surroundings, like you said, or the stress that goes on in your life. I mean, it's just all intertwined. Spiritual condition of people. I don't know how many times that I've been able to just pray with my patients even. They might not even know who Jesus is, but they are willing to take any type of help that they can get. And so they will say, yes, you may pray for me. So, I mean, it's been exciting to see in those situations. But yeah, it's those people. You need to help them see that there's more out there than just what's been going on in their life. There's more to it.
Say you were in your 20s and you...
I am, don't you know?
All right, say you're one of your patients. You come into the hospital, you're 26, and you've just been told that you've had a heart attack for the first time in your life because something was kind of out of the ordinary. Because, I mean, normally somebody that young doesn't. There's probably some substances going on or something, and you're in a bad living situation. You're in one of these circumstances that you can imagine happen in the hospital. But say you're in that situation, just to give an idea of some kind of a story of this is happening. What's your first step? You know something's wrong. You want to make a change. You've been eating the wrong things. You haven't been exercising enough, and you have no money. What is the first step that you would try to do to leverage yourself out of that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I can't begin to appreciate how much our caseworkers help our patients in that situation. And all of our caseworkers actually have a nursing degree as well. And so they kind of have both aspects, right? All the resources that are available for help on the outside, as well as resources, in the hospital that they can start getting connected with to help them with those changes on the outside. It's hard when you see people stuck, right? But again, if they are willing to change and they want to change, then anybody, I think, can have that happen in their life.
What do you think the number one reason is that people struggle to lose weight? Because that's the one thing that I'm very passionate on this channel. It's something that, well, I had to do a lot when I was in cross country because you have to be light. And so I'm very interested in all the different tricks and things that don't work on how to lose weight. But it's something that seems to be interesting to people on this channel because it's something people talk to me about all the time in the hospital is, I want to lose weight. How do I do it? Do you have any advice for somebody that's trying to lose weight and do it consistently without getting it back?
Yeah, I feel like we are a quick fix society. We want our fast food when we want our fast food. It's so readily available. You hate it when you have to wait 10 minutes to get your food at a restaurant. All of the diet weight loss medication that's so readily prescribed out there now. The surgeries, I feel like those are kind of on the back burner these days because they're starting to realize that all those bariatric surgeries are not necessarily the best or long-term solutions for weight loss. there's just so many of these, things that people want as a quick fix, and they're not willing, dieting, all that stuff. They're not willing to, as I went back to what I said before, not willing to make those lifestyle changes and those healthy choices in their life. If I don't see results quick within 4 weeks, 6 weeks, like these days, look on your Instagram feed or whatever it may be, like, hey, do this workout for 4 weeks and you'll see a change already with the toned abs and the, whatever it may be. And like 4 weeks, that is nothing. This needs to be a lifestyle situation that's going on, continuing on for years. And you're not going to get that. Most people won't get that by themselves. You need to get a partner, buddy up, have accountability. We talk about that all the time in spiritual, context of, just helping us with our spiritual walk. It's the same thing with any type of health situation, exercising, dieting, eating healthy, all of that stuff. You need somebody to keep you accountable and keep you motivated, encouraged, and help you.
Yeah, I like that about 4 weeks, because that is true. People do want immediate gratification.
Yeah.
And I think there's helpful stuff you can do in the process along that's going to give you that gratification, like at the point where you've lost enough weight. This is something they did in the Mr. Beast 100 pounds weight loss challenge. Every time he went down a shirt size, they brought him new clothes.
Oh, nice. Nice.
But I think when somebody's got some kind of a milestone to hit, it's kind of like when your kids in martial arts and it's white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, green belt, giving them something to realize that, oh, I've accomplished something.
Exactly.
I'm making progress. This isn't all for nothing.
Yeah. And we need to do that as people too, right? Set these goals for yourself. And when you get to that goal that's attainable, then you reward yourself or something happens.
Yeah, just not with food.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. Thank you for coming, Melissa.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask the audience questions. The audience will field questions, and we have a pool, and the previous speaker will select one for the next speaker to answer. So we've got the audience and previous speakers. The previous speaker did not know who you are.
Okay.
But the question that has been left for you is, what would you build if you could do anything and knew you wouldn't fail?
I think I would build a culture of safety, where people could speak freely and feel welcome of doing it, not criticized, not feeling like they're being looked at weird. So many times, there's so many people who are different and distinct in the world, right? Just because they may not look like us, act like us, talk like us, dress like us, whatever, like us, doesn't mean that they have worth and value. God created everybody different, unique, but we are all His creation, and He wants that special relationship with us. He wants us to know who He is personally. And if we have that culture of, accepting people and having that freedom to share and to be who we are, it kind of puts down a lot of walls, and people will become way more acceptable, I think, and open to hearing who their Father is and their Father in heaven. It's always a greater mindset of not just living here and now, but what is for eternity, and how can I now give Him all the glory, give Him all the praise, and help others know Him better. And I think that building that culture would do that.
I like that, because for me, I think if we built a culture where people were able to say things without people getting angry, without them judging, that would open up so many possibilities to have discussions.
Yeah.
I have a friend that likes to say that I think we would agree on 99% of the issues if we were willing to talk about it. If we get 100 people in the room and actually get them to talk, we could agree on 99% of things. And there's maybe 3 really big things that we disagree with each other on.
Right.
and those tend to be the things that we focus on.
Right.
At the end of the day, we want a lot of the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as judgment goes, I think that is a tough place to get to, because some of the people I know that they're the most adamant that we shouldn't judge people. I think the challenge is not flipping too far in the other direction where we're inclined to judge people for different things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we might not judge somebody for skin color, but we might judge them for their age.
Right.
We might not judge them for either of those things, but we might judge them because they're too flashy on social media and they seem like they've got something to prove. We may not see the pain
Right.
that person's experiencing that makes them, that motivates them to compensate with social media or compensate with money or compensate with, I could go a lot of different areas with this. And I think the most controversial form that I'm most scared to talk about this is, how do I listen to somebody that's saying something that's hurtful or maybe even hateful to me, and understand that there's pain behind that? Because I think that is one of the biggest challenges we're going to have, is the sides are demonizing each other. And if we can't get past the hurt and the hate that's there and be willing to actually talk about these things, it's going to be hard for us to solve anything. But you're right, we won't really be able to get to any of those places until we're actually willing to say what we mean.
Right, right. And I think that it's, you can take that into the bedside nursing world too, and just trying to put yourself in the shoes of your patient. And it gives you so much more compassion, so much more care. I mean, not just in your patients, but, take it to your coworkers. If, there's some type of, issue going on with you and your coworkers, don't just snip back or anything like that. Like, try to enter into their world. I mean, you never know what happened to them before they came into work. And so, try to have that bigger picture, bigger mind, and what are we pointing people to? And hopefully it's to Jesus.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do with nursing, because you don't feel that in the moment. You feel stressed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to do that because the person's just going to yell at you again in a minute, and you don't want to let them off. But I think it is helpful to me to think about them like, what if this was my family member, and I try to picture somebody I know that's maybe a similar demographic to the person that's there, and I understand their story better. It's like, what if it was that person? How would I want somebody to treat that person if my friend, my family member was in the hospital?
Exactly. And I wonder if it would be very interesting, how many years have you been nursing, Jonathan?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. So, get a couple more years under your belt, and I'm be very curious as to how different people interact with you as that male nurse at the bedside. Are they quick to respond back to you? Are your coworkers quick? Or do they see you as something else? Like, I know right now for me, working in these 27, 28 years as a nurse, I am now, most of the time when I'm working, I am charge nurse. So in charge of all of these younger nurses who look up to me, who I feel a little greater responsibility to try to make sure that they know what they're doing, that they're caring well for their patients, that they're getting the best care possible. And I think a lot of times, because they see me as that mom role in that, hospital work environment, that a lot of times they respect me where they won't, reach up. Or I have that confidence now for patients, even though, yes, I may have entered in, I don't know what's going on, but there still is a point where you need to be respectful as a patient. I need to be respectful as a nurse. But, setting those boundaries, like, that is not an appropriate way to talk to me. All your needs are cared for at this moment. I will step out. I will come back in 3 minutes, and then we can discuss more issues, but we do it in a calm way, kind of a thing. So, there's that line that you're just not getting run over, right? But you're still caring for them and putting boundaries and respect for yourself as well.
That is something I've been working on. I watched a podcast by Jefferson Fisher. He's a courtroom lawyer.
Okay.
He's got a podcast about how to have good conversations with people. And so one trick that I stole from him was, when I've got a patient that's out of their mind crazy, sometimes they're screaming at me, yelling at me, and I use the line from his podcast, does it bring you joy when you talk to somebody that way?
Oh.
And I didn't think it would work on a crazy person. But
I'm sure it does.
It works great, because you've shown them that they're not going to get a reaction out of you. And that's a lot of time what people want. The first time I did that to the guy, I got more screaming.
Yeah.
And then the second time, I said it a little bit differently. I think I said to him, how does it make you feel when you talk to people that way?
Yeah.
The third time it was that wise. Does it bring you joy? And
Yeah.
sometimes you talk to people and you just get more screaming.
Uh-huh.
But after using it a few times, what I found is sometimes they'll look at me and say, I'm sorry, man. It's been a long day. And I never really know what somebody that's not got all their faculties together because of whatever, encephalopathy or something
Right.
that's going on with their mind. But talking to somebody in a way that's calm and doesn't give them a reaction, a lot of times it can be very helpful in a
Definitely.
situation like that.
I'll take that line. I'll use it now.
Okay, I like it. All right, well, thank you for coming today. This has been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.